each one his household. Reuben, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda, Yishkar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all those who were descendants of Jacob were 70 beings, as Joseph was already in Mizraim. And Joseph died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. And the children of Israel bore fruit and increased very much, multiplied and became very strong, and the land was filled with them. Then a new sovereign arose over Mizraim, who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, see, the people of the children of Israel are more and stronger than we. Come, let us act wisely toward them, lest they increase. And it shall be, when fighting befalls us, that they shall join our enemies and fight against us, and shall go up out of the land. So they appointed slave masters over them to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh supply cities, Pithom and Ramses. And the more they afflicted them, the more they increased and grew. And they were in dread of the children of Israel. And the Mizrahites made the children of Israel serve with harshness. And they made their lives bitter, and their bondage in mortar and in brick and in all kinds of work in the field. All the work which they had made them do was with harshness. Then the sovereign of Mizraim spoke to the Hebrew midwives, whom the name of the one was Sapphira, and the name of the other was Puah. And he said, when you deliver the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stools, if it is a son, then you shall put him to death. But if it is a daughter, she shall live. But the midwives revered Almighty Sovereign and did not do as the sovereign of Mizraim commanded them, and kept the male children alive. So the sovereign of Mizraim called for the midwives and said to them, why have you done this, and kept the male children alive? And the midwives said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not like the Mizraite woman, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them. So Almighty Sovereign was good to the midwives, and the people increased and became very numerous. And it came to be, because the midwives revered Almighty Sovereign, that he provided households for them. And Pharaoh commanded all the people, saying, throw every son who is born into the river, to keep alive every daughter.
Any comments? Go ahead.
I always liked reading this because these midwives revered Almighty Sovereign, and they didn't do as Pharaoh commanded. And because that, they were blessed by the Father. And it said that it came to be because midwives revered Almighty Sovereign, that he provided households for them. So they revered him, and I don't know how much they followed him, but they revered him as Almighty Sovereign, and they would not go against the Father's word, but they went against Pharaoh.
Anyone else?
This was Pharaoh's decision to do this?
Yes. Well, you read earlier in the chapter here that a new Pharaoh came to power that did not know Joseph.
But wasn't there a prophecy before this? That, am I wrong?
Abraham was told that his descendants would be enslaved.
But not the babies.
In the book of Jasher, it talks about, Pharaoh, he was perplexed with the children of Israel becoming so large and didn't know what to do with them. And there's a young man in his court that said, this is what you need to do. And it sounded good in Pharaoh's ears, so that's what they did.
Right. Anyone else?
I've got just a couple things. I was listening to a video this week. It was not on this subject, but they did incorporate this beginning of Exodus, verse 8:1-8 specifically, when it talks about that new king, that a new sovereign arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. And paralleling it, they were giving some warning in our culture today of some things looking forward and kind of giving some possible warnings in it regarding the Jewish people and anti-Semitism, Jewish by blood and such anti-Semitism there, which I think could equate to anyone following Messiah. I mean that Messiah spirit would be let out even more. But they were talking about people today, equivalently, there's so many that are coming out in movements and following popular people and following, very far-winged and wild teachings that are even going like back to the Holocaust and saying, and I remember even in school there were some people that were saying it didn't happen. But more even today, we've come just far enough, and that there are so many just kind of like the conspiracies and all these theories, they're not saying are always incorrect, but that they're going back and, like the Holocaust didn't happen. It was either blown way out of proportion, it only was in this little spot, it was only for these little people, and so equating it similarly to this verse of like a culture is arising and a generation is arising, that it's just a point in history. And where this king, if anything, it was just a point in history that Joseph rose up, that he helped Egypt. There was an impact on him as the king to value Joseph's people, and instead he flipped it and said they're growing big and they're going to rule over us instead. So we need to put them into subjection. And so I think just a good lesson and warning for us to, they have the common phrase, if we don't learn from history, we'll repeat it.
If our history is correct.
If our history is correct. Right. And so just in remembering, if this king had remembered, if it had impacted him, if he had let it impact him, that the Father worked through all of that, through Joseph, through all the saving of Egypt, saving of so many other people, I think we'd have a different story, which of course is Yah's hand is in it all. But there's that king that forgot. He didn't make it personable to him anymore or to the people that he was ruling over. So I just thought that was a little interesting and had a little tie-in this week. So it's muted, so just push once. Just push once.
I think that kind of ties into like just the whole breakdown of society and parents, because you see more people, more. I mean, when I grew up Catholic. We went to church every Sunday. It was important. But now you see so many parents that are Christians that don't bother to go to church even on Sunday, even though that's the wrong day. They're not even bothering. They're not associated in, because they don't go. Their kids don't learn, and so their kids grow up. They don't learn. And so the same thing happens, I think, with the Holocaust, with our history, with all kinds of stuff. If we, the previous generation and the generation before us, if we don't, because the scripture talks about us that we're supposed to repeat this stuff and teach it to our children,
Right.
And if we're not teaching them all these things, how are they going to know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
How true. You know that Rachel brings up the fact of the Holocaust, which in my mind, did happen. Something like 6.5 million Jews were killed during World War II. However, has anyone heard about what Stalin did in the Soviet Union?
Oh, he killed millions of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
he killed millions of his
66 million Russians were killed under the hand of Stalin.
Well, I didn't realize
56
it.
million?
It was that many.
Genocide, yeah.
A huge
Wow.
amount.
It was so many they actually don't know.
They
Yeah,
really don't
it's
know.
like estimated.
That they
Yeah,
But
wiped
there
out
were,
Christians and
Uh-huh.
so there, it was a, I don't know how to term this.
It was like
Stalin
genocide.
really is. He was a Talmudist. Jewish back. I know, I understand what you're saying, but I'm gonna say it just one time. That was a plot to get rid of Eastern Orthodox religion, to kill as many Russians as they could.
Wow.
yeah, so they were killing Christians and
Mm-hmm.
running off there. Well, a lot of Russians left during the revolution. Not Russians, people who, the Jews
Mm.
left
But there.
that they could, but, you know, everybody else pretty much was starved to death or sent to Siberia.
Did they?
Gulags.
Right, Siberia. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
did
nobody
learn
has ever
some.
taught
They were
that.
sent to the
I did
Gulag.
learn some of that, but I didn't remember it being that drastic.
It was huge, yeah.
Go ahead.
I heard that there was a total of 60 million that died during the World War II era. Not that Stalin had killed 66 million, but that there were 60 million that died throughout the World War II era. And
Including
this
the
started-
fighting and things? Or
yes,
this, okay.
yes,
But
including the fighting and everything. And so if you look at that 60 million and 6 million of them were Jews, that's the father's tithe. 10%.
Yeah, that could be. Go ahead.
Sam.
Check. Okay. I'm gonna challenge each and every one of you to actually do the research. It's interesting, in the decade before, there were about 6 to 7 million Jews in the world, the whole world. And in the decade after, they were estimating about 10 to 12 million Jews in the world. You know, Auschwitz is the fun example they like to give for the slaughter grounds of the Jews, but there's no evidence there. What they present as evidence is a fabrication. And it's just interesting that that particular camp, the prisoners that remained with the advance of the Russian troops, they retreated with the Germans. The Germans themselves were starving and sick, and that because they'd been cut off, you know, from supply lines and so on and so forth. Anyway, I'm just going to challenge anyone that's curious to actually do the research. The problem with our history is that we take someone's word for it because they put it in a book, as opposed to, you know, going and verifying it. So like this Pharaoh who rose up, he wasn't part of the previous lines. He wasn't connected to Egyptian history. And one of the things that was common, and still is, we have this going on in the world today, is to bring in a foreigner and appoint them as ruler over the land or the city or whatever. I mean, we've got foreigners everywhere in positions of authority where they shouldn't be. So just like the Heavenly Father gives a command later, no, he has to come from among your brothers. You're not allowed to appoint a foreigner. Why? It's because they're disconnected from the culture. So this Pharaoh that rises up, he's not only wanting to disconnect from the previous reigns, you know, he's wanting to establish his own as something unique. So when he starts to put the children of Israel into subjection, well, how much does slave labor cost? Well, nothing. You know, so the only thing you have to pay for is the taskmasters. Anyway, so anyone that's actually questioning history, you know, question it, do the research. You know, how much of what we know is because someone said so versus we know because we've done the deep dive into it.
And so you said that we can't get our research out of books or reading what somebody else has said. Where did you get your research?
The books that are harder to find, the ones that, if a book has been banned or it has been, taken
Well,
off the
what
shelf.
I'm talking about is like a textbook, something that's been put together for public consumption, specifically like for schooling. There's a difference between schooling and education.
And indoctrination.
So, it's like, where in those textbooks do they ever cite any resources? They don't. It's kind of like the Diary of Anne Frank. How many of us know that that's actually been proven to be a fraud? Anybody?
Yeah.
Did you know that? Yeah, we got one. And it was a rather simple thing because the original manuscript that they found was written in ballpoint pen. And so it couldn't have been written by Anne Frank because the ballpoint pen wasn't invented yet.
Right.
So it's a lovely story, but probably a work of fiction. Now, it's possible it was handed down, but that's not how it's written. So it's just stuff like that I mean, like one of the biggest holocausts of World War II was actually the slaughter of the German people after the war's end, after the fighting stopped. Eisenhower was one of the worst mass murderers in history.
Oh, I have did read that. I don't know if he's the worst, but he's bad.
Check. Okay, now it's back on. Because they didn't classify the Germans as prisoners of war. I forget exactly the term that they used, but then, because they didn't classify them as prisoners of war, they didn't treat them under the Geneva Conventions. So it was along the lines of, well, we don't care if they starve or freeze to death, or because they just had them in open air camps and put machine gun, nests upon them, and they just perished, millions of them. Never mind what the Europeans did in the fire bombings before that. This is why, Patton, by war's end, of course, he had been relegated to an army that actually didn't exist. But then, he realizes what's going on, and he's just thoroughly disgusted because of the dishonor and the murder and everything else that's going on. And he vows he's going to come back to the States and, probably run for president, except that he meets with an accident before he can do all that.
Suspicious accident.
Yeah.
For that.
Anyway, not to go into theories and things like that, but there are so many facts that are actually missing, that we just kind of gloss over. That, like, for example, the census data, how can there be about 6 million Jews and a decade later, 8 or 12 or whatever it is? It's like, and then how could you kill 6 million, basically, 99% of that within that decade, and then suddenly they've all reproduced, and it just doesn't work. So it's like, we don't connect these dots, we just take it on face value. And so that's all I'm suggesting is that, as I've gotten older, it's like, well, I've been told a lot of things about the scriptures, but then what does it actually say? And not just our translation, but then the actual Hebrew. What does it actually mean? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking the question, just floating it out there, because that's the journey. So I'm constantly questioning how much of what I think I know do I actually know, or it's just because I believe what someone's told me.
So in the final synopsis of yours, the Holocaust never happened.
Of the Jews, no. There's no evidence for it. Now, there was a significant Jewish population in Russia and untold numbers of people. I mean, they estimate the deaths there, and the same in China. They estimate those deaths in the tens of millions. I mean, that's as far as they can narrow it down. There were just a whole lot of people, and then within a short period of time, there weren't. And so, you know, it's kind of like how the number one cause of death in every decade of recorded history, which is every century of recorded history, is what's called democide, which is death by government and death by your own government. And it's not even close. The next thing down the list, I don't even remember what it is, because it's like 99% of all premature, you know, unnatural death is death by government. You know, and that's not taught in our history. We just go, oh, well, communism killed all those people in the last century. You know, rather than the government. But, you know, Eisenhower killed millions of Germans. You know, the British in their fire bombings killed millions of people, you know, in those cities, burned them up with their incendiary bombs.
Well, they had no choice. They were getting attacked. They had to take it. I mean, Germany was going to go after them and kill them no matter what. They had to that's just the same thing like we had to do to Japan.
They were civilian targets.
It don't matter.
Okay.
When it gets to that point. I mean,
I'm not going to discuss, you know, there's no point in discussing the philosophical differences. I'm just saying that, you know, war is hell.
yeah, it is.
Okay. But it's like when you're talking about a force that's going to fight back or not fight back, you know, they weren't targeting factories. They quit targeting factories.
They were
going after
carpet
the
bombing
cities.
in Britain in 1940 and 39.
Yeah, I know.
Before we got there.
Right. I'm familiar with the Battle of Britain.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I think I opened a can of worms.
I think I did, I'm sorry.
I'm just curious, I wouldn't even know what to go look at to find that kind of information. I mean, obviously, you can't Google it because you can't trust that. So where do you go? I mean, where do you find the information that you say, I can trust this? I mean, really, we are all victims of, we can believe only what we're told and we assume that it's correct.
Well,
But obviously it's not, maybe.
like Auschwitz, for example, you can find the aerial photos that they took of the place, you know, and one of the things that it shows is that there is no coke.
There's no what?
Coke.
Coke?
Coal
Oh,
Resource.
for their furnaces.
There was no.
Okay, you can look up
incineration.
the estimated amount of coal required and the time required to consume the average human body. So just as an example, okay, the mass graves that they found like several thousand, okay, people in those mass graves. But then, you know, there's also the records from the camp talking about the outbreak of lice and other disease, you know, and in part because of their starvation. You know, they had a swimming pool. They had a band.
Auschwitz did?
Auschwitz did. Yeah. So you can find these things, and that swimming pool wasn't outside the fence. It was inside the fence. You know, and again, they retreated with the Germans. They did not want to be taken by the Bolsheviks. You know, Eisenhower's camps. Do a search on that. You know, Google will bring it up. You might have to go a page or two in, you know, but you'll find all the confirming stuff. And just like the scripture tells us,
You know, the truth is confirmed by two witnesses. All right, now I'm not talking about two conspiracy nuts that are just saying something. I'm talking about like the aerial photographs, the actual calculations for here's how much coal it takes to burn up a body. You know, these things you can find.
And woe to those who call good evil and evil good.
You know, most of us, it's kind of like I'm thinking Catholicism or other basic Christianity. You know, people, we just assume we're being told the right stuff, you know? So we have no inclination to think, oh, maybe this is wrong. Maybe I need to dig deeper. So we don't. And we just go along our life, believe in the priest, believe in this, believe in that, until somebody like you comes along and says, hey. And we never even thought to dig deeper because we believe who's talking to us. You know, the people of authority, our own government, whoever it is. We believe them. I believe them because I don't go around telling people lies or untruths. I say what I think is true. You know, and I expect other people to talk to me in the truth and to read stuff that's truthful too. And so that's why you have so many people in traditional religion or pagan stuff, because they think what they're doing is right and they have no reason to doubt it, and so they don't.
Right. We've inherited nothing but lies.
We're surrounded by lies. That's right, exactly.
I can agree
We are
with that.
surrounded
Don't
by
even look at the
untruths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't really walk and live assuming everything you hear is wrong either.
Well, I think that's actually a better starting point.
Yeah.
Test everything. You know,
Well, that's to test the scripture.
it's because, you know, just my own experience and my own life, you know, I've been more wrong than right. And it's not even close on that end of the scale. So the amount of times I've been wrong about something and been corrected, you know, happens more often than, oh, hey, I was right about whatever that was. And so I'm just going in now with the assumption that I'm wrong about it. And what I know to be about that issue or subject is probably wrong. You know, and it goes to the question of, when has the crowd ever been right? Just name me one time. And when you recognize that it's never happened, you know, then it's like, oh, yeah, you know, all the prophets were martyred, put to death, all the disciples, all the apostles, you know, everyone who stands in the gap is destroyed by the world. And Yeshua was no different. So pick up your stake and follow me is going to be a lot of that. So it's like, what investment then do I have in being right? I mean, I think I know that the Holocaust didn't happen. There's a preponderance of evidence that I've seen, you know, but then am I going to sit there and just go, well, it absolutely didn't happen? No, I'm not going there, because that was my mistake in the first place in saying that it absolutely did happen. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm still questioning. But I do know one thing, that has little to do with either my salvation, my saving from that second death, or any rewards I may or may not receive from the Master. So, you know, is it a hill to die on? No. But it could be a teaching point. It could be a lesson to be learned. And for me, it's like, yeah, don't think you got it all figured out. And even when you do think you have it figured out, still leave some room in case. Because there's still a good probability, high probability, that I'm still wrong. You know, I'm still missing pieces of the puzzle and et cetera, et cetera. So that's just my look on that.
It kind of, for me, this is for me, because I don't have all the information about it as you do, makes me think I need to keep my mouth shut a lot and not enter into conversations about stuff unless I've researched it like that and I know for sure that what I'm telling is truth. I mean, that's just not salvation stuff, just regular, like the Holocaust or stuff, you know? I mean, I'm not gonna get into a debate with anybody and say, oh, yes, it did, and stand up and defend it now.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like, you know, this is what I think I know. And I think it's valuable that we share that information. You know, because, well, you know, like I probably have shared some of the research that I've done that you guys haven't ever heard before. You know, and I'm, of course, obviously encouraging everyone to go take a look at some of that stuff. It is widely available, by the way. It's not terrible difficult to find. But
Just be careful where you search for it now. Because of the data centers because they record everything you look at on Google.
well, yeah, privacy's been dead a long time.
Well, yeah, but there are better search engines and places to go. Because they record everything you look at on YouTube and, you know, so.
So like, where do you research then? So where should you
There
go?
are other places to go look for stuff. I mean, Google, I mean, there, you know, anyway, we'll discuss this at fellowship.
We can discuss it some more later.
Yeah, we need to move on.
Is there any Bible evidence of this ever happening?
Bible?
Yes.
Oh, viable.
No, Bible evidence of this ever happened. We're just getting ready to read into one time it happened with all the children, the Hebrew children.
Right.
When Yeshua was born,
Did the same thing.
every child under 3 years old was destroyed.
And also
And then-
Abraham,
Yes,
Abram, when he was born.
yes, Abram when he was born.
That's it.
And then you'll find in a lot of these wars where
The source.
where peoples were wiped out. So it's not uncommon for man to do this type of thing.
Right.
And I ain't saying that you're wrong about the Holocaust or anything like that, or about the Germans being wrong. I'm saying man has the tendency to do evil upon each other that is unspeakable.
Yeah.
True.
And speaking of that, when I was listening to the comment about the firebombing that occurred in Germany, the British came over by night after night after night after night, and firebombed as many German cities as they could. As many as they could, especially cities like Dresden and Stuttgart. When I was in the service, I was stationed in Germany. And my friend and I were driving through the countryside just to see the sights. And we decided to stay at a hotel in Stuttgart. We were not well received because we were American. Not. Okay, we'll go on to chapter 2.
I think we're ready for number.
Yeah, we're there.
I did.
Crawled it.
And the man of the house of Levi went and married the daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bore a son. And she saw that he was a lovely child. She hid him 3 months. And when she could hide him no longer, she took an ark of papyrus for him and coated it with tar and pitch, and put the child in it and laid it in the reeds by the edge of the river. And his sister stood at a distance to know that what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her young women were walking by the riverside. When she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her female servant to get it, and opened it, and saw a child, and see, the child wept. So she had compassion on him, and said, This is one of the children of the Hebrews. And his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call a nurse for him, the Hebrew woman, to nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the girl went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Take this child away and nurse him for me. Then I will pay your wages. So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moshe, saying, Because I have drawn him out of the water. And in those days it came to be, when Moshe was grown, that he went out to his brothers and looked at their burdens, and he saw a Mizraite beating an Hebrew, one of his brothers. So he turned this way and that, and when he saw no one, he smote the Mizraite and hid him in the sand. And he went out the second day and saw two Hebrews fighting, and he said to the one who did the wrong, Why do you smite your neighbor? And he said, Who made you a head and a judge over us? Do you intend to slay me as you slew the Mizraite? And Moshe feared and said, Truly, this matter is known. And Pharaoh heard of this matter, and he sought to kill Moshe. But Moshe fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. And a Cohen of Midian and 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their father's flock. But the shepherds came and drove them away. Then Moshe stood up and came to rescue and water their flock. And they came to Reuel, their father, and he said, How is it that you have some so soon today? And they said, A Mizraite rescued us from the hand of the shepherd, and he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock. And he said to his daughters, And where is he? Why did you leave the man? Call him and let us eat bread. And Moshe agreed to dwell with the man, and he gave Zipporah, his daughter, to Moshe, and she bore him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, I have become a sojourner in a foreign land. And it came to be after these many days that the son of Mizraim died, and the children of Israel groaned because of slavery, and they cried out. And their cry came up to Almighty Sovereign because of slavery. And Almighty Sovereign heard their groaning, and Almighty Sovereign remembered his covenant with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And Almighty Sovereign looked on the children of Israel, and Almighty Sovereign knew.
Anyone, any comments? Go ahead. Great.
In this chapter, we just covered 80 years. 80 years. Yep, 80 years. Yes. According to the Bible.
That's what you call a snapshot
Yes.
of time. Anyone else? No? Go on to chapter 3. Sorry.
You go ahead.
I think it's interesting that Moshe's mother ended up nursing him, and he got paid for it.
Yeah.
That's the father of
That the
word.
father was taking care of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is
I like in verse 3 when it talks about the ark that Moshe's mom made for him. It's the same word used with Noah and the ark that he makes. It's a rudderless vessel, so there's nothing within the vessel itself that is used for steering. that it's only steered by the Father. So that's what we saw with Noah, that's what we see with Moshe, and where he's to go, it's completely governed by the Father's hand, so I like that little.
And it's also built like the ark with tar and pitch.
Oh, there you go. Ooh, I like that.
Anyone else? John chapter 3.
And Moshe was shepherding the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the Cohen of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of Almighty Sovereign. And the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked and saw the bush burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. And Moshe said, let me turn aside now and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. And Yahweh saw that he had turned aside to see, and Almighty Sovereign called to him in the midst of the bush and said, Moshe, Moshe. And he said, here I am. And he said, do not come near here. Take your sandals off your feet, for this place on which you are standing is Kodesh ground. And he said, I am the Almighty Sovereign of your father, the Almighty Sovereign of Abraham, the Almighty Sovereign of Isaac, the Almighty Sovereign of Jacob. And Moshe hid his face, for he's afraid to look at Almighty Sovereign. And Yahweh said, I have indeed seen the oppression of my people who are in Mitzrayim, and have heard their cry because of their slave drivers, for I know their sorrows. And I come down to deliver them from the hand of the Mizrahites, to bring them up from the land to the good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And now, see, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression which the Mizrahites oppressed them. And now come, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Mitzrayim. And Moshe said to Almighty Sovereign, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim? And he said, because I am with you, and this is to you the sign that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Mitzrayim, you are to serve Almighty Sovereign on this mountain. And Moshe said to Almighty Sovereign, see, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the Almighty Sovereign of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? And Almighty Sovereign said to Moshe, I am that which I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. And Almighty Sovereign said further to Moshe, thus you are to say to the children of Israel, Yahweh, Almighty Sovereign, your father, the Almighty Sovereign of Abraham, the Almighty Sovereign of Isaac, the Almighty Sovereign of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance to all generations. Go, and you shall gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, Yahweh, Almighty Sovereign of your fathers, the Almighty Sovereign of Isaac, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob appeared to me, saying, I have indeed visited you and seen what is done to you in Mitzrayim. And I say, I am bringing you up out of the affliction of Mitzrayim to the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittite, and the Amorite, and the Perizzites, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, and to the land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall listen to your voice, and you shall come, and you and the elders of Israel, to the sovereign of Mitzrayim, and you shall say to him, Yahweh, Almighty Sovereign of the Hebrews, has met with us, and now please let us go 3 days' journey to the wilderness to slaughter to Yahweh, Almighty Sovereign. But I know that the sovereign of Mitzrayim is not going to let you go even by a strong hand. And I shall stretch out my hand and smite Mizraim with all my wonders, which I shall do in his midst. And after that he shall let you go. And I shall give this people favor in the eyes of the Mizrahites. It shall be that when you go, that you shall not go empty-handed, but every woman shall ask of her neighbor, and from the stranger in her house, objects of silver, objects of gold, and garments. And you shall put them on your sons and on your daughters, and shall plunder the Mizrahites.
Any comments? Go ahead, Ray.
Here in verse 1, it says his father-in-law's name was Yithro. And yet, back in chapter 2, verse 18, they came to Reuel, his father, and said, "How is it you have come so soon today?" And in 21, Moshe agreed to dwell with the man. Presumably, by the context, that was Reuel, and gave Zipporah his daughter to Moshe.
I have a footnote about that on, thank you. On Exodus 2:18, the footnote says his, because it has Reuel as his name. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Am I good?
Yes.
I
Yes.
can't tell.
Yes.
Okay, anyhow, the footnote says his title was Yisro, which means excellency. So Yisro's his title, and Reuel, or how do you say it? Reuel is his actual name. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Jethro is his title?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yithro.
it just, Yisro, yeah.
Like Pharaoh or
Excellent.
like
That's interesting.
magistrate.
Good point.
Okay. Anyone else?
In 19, it says, "But I know that the sovereign of Israel is not going to let you go, not even by a strong hand." And this is because the father knew this, because he knew the heart of Pharaoh and all the pride that was in his heart. Because that's what separates us from the Father, our pride.
But it says in 20, I said, "I shall stretch out my hand and strike Mitzrayim with all my wonders,
Yes.
which I shall do in their midst. And after that, they shall let you go."
And then he also says in 21 that people shall show you favor. And back when the Father made this covenant with Abraham, he tells him that you will be sojourners in a land not of your own. You will be slaves. But when you leave, you will leave with riches.
Just like the prophecy said. Anyone else? Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, does anybody know how many years it was between the time Moses made his first appearance to Pharaoh and they actually left Egypt?
No, when you ask this every year.
Do I? I was thinking I do, but I don't have anything written down, so that must be why.
No.
Well, maybe you'll have something here I can share. Maybe. So it's likely that the sojourn in Egypt begins with the call of Abraham and Yah's promise to him, as we read in Genesis 12:2-3, and ends with the Exodus, or going out in Hebrew. That is the fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, sojourned in Canaan for 215 years, and their descendants lived in Egypt, bondage, for an additional 215 years. The total then would result in a 430-year number listed in Exodus chapter 12, verses 40 through 41, or Galatians chapter 3, verse 17. 430 years.
But she's talking about.
I know how long they were in. So
Yeah,
it's
just
215 years they were in
No.
Egypt.
Just
Yeah,
how long
that's
it
not-
took from
that wasn't her
Moses,
question.
Asking how long from the time.
Moses, with, that
I
the,
don't know that one.
yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
everyone.
we've talked about that, and it's just,
That's your assignment, you can tell us next year.
Yeah.
You go study.
I always figured a couple of years because of how the crops get wiped out and again, and like the livestock, and then again, and it's like, well, wait a minute, didn't we just kill all that off like a few verses back? And so,
Yeah.
you know, I'm guessing there were some cycles in there, some seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm figuring, it's gotta be longer than what we think it,
Yeah.
cause it reads like it's just right after.
Yeah, like a week.
And you know,
Two.
it's not, wasn't that quick, that it was probably years, years.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I should grab the pink one.
I can do it.
Which, Craig, you do say, is it Jasher that talks about between when Pharaoh, or when Moshe and Aaron stand before Pharaoh the first time, we're about to read, the first time, and the second time, that's 2 years? I think I've heard you say.
it's a long period of time, it might not be 2 years, but I know it's at least a year.
But that would be before the plagues start, and then
Yeah.
however long, again, if there's cycles through the plagues and such. I really like verses 11 and 12. So Moshe is, he's struck and he's feeling insignificant. He's feeling, who is he to be able to do this? And he says it, verse 11 says, and Moshe said to Elohim, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim, who, again, we know at that point are about probably 2 million people by the calculation of the men in the census, plus women and children. It's probably 2 million people that he's bringing out. And again, how enough of like, oh, who am I to go against someone and bring my family out, let alone bringing 2 million people out? And Yah's response, I just love when he says in the very beginning of 12, and he said, because I am with you. So no matter what we're facing, no matter how overwhelmed or how inadequate we feel, like, who am I to do this? If he's guiding us to do it, if he's instructing us to do it, it doesn't matter what it is because he is with us. So I love that. And then kind of related, in 19 and 20, I have a little just note that I put in my side margin here. When Yah says, but I know that the sovereign of Israel is not going to let you go, not even by a strong hand. So before the plagues start, and I shall stretch out my hand and strike Mitzrayim with all my wonders. And so my little side note is that even at times in our lives when Yahuwah is not done working, to be patient. Because so he tells Moses to go to Pharaoh and talk to him. But he also tells him he's not going to listen. But don't be discouraged because I'm still working. And so for me, that's a lot of my life is can easily become discouraged. And I think the more and more we see the world around us, the more and more we can fall into discouragement with that. But just to know that the Father is still always working, and we want to be right in the middle of His will. It's the safest place to be.
Yes. It takes time.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Anyone else? All right, go on to chapter 4 and I'll read it. And Moshe answered and said, and if they do not believe me, nor listen to my voice, and say, Yahweh has not appeared to you. And Yahweh said to him, what is that in your hand? And he said, a rod. And he said, throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moshe fled from it. And Yahweh said to Moshe, reach out your hand and seize it by the tail. So he reached out his hand and took hold of it, and it became a rod in his hand. So that they believed that Yahweh, Elohim of their fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Ishak, and the Elohim of Jacob has appeared to you. And Yahweh said to him again, now put your hand in your bosom. And he put his hand in his bosom, and when he took it out, and see, his hand was leprous like snow. And he said, put your hand in your bosom again. So he put his hand in his bosom again, and drew it out of his bosom, and see, it was restored like his other flesh. And it shall be, if they do not believe you, nor listen to the voice of the first sign, they shall believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall be, if they do not believe even those two signs, or listen to your voice, that you shall take water from the river and pour it on the dry land. And the water which you take from the river shall become blood on the dry land. And Moshe said to Yahweh, O Yahweh, I am not a man of words, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, for I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. And Yahweh said to him, who has made man's mouth? Or who makes dumb, or deaf, or seeing, or blind? Is it not I, Yahweh? And now go, and I shall be with your mouth and teach you what to say. But he said, O Yahweh, please send by the hand of him whom you would send. And the displeasure of Yahweh burned against Moshe. And he said, is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he speaks well. And see, he is also coming out to meet you. And when he sees you, he shall be glad in his heart. And you shall speak to him, and put the words in his mouth. And I am with your mouth, and with his mouth, and I shall teach you what to do. And he shall speak for you to the people. And it shall be that he shall be a mouth for you, and you shall be an Elohim for him. And take this rod in your hand, with which you shall do the signs. Then Moshe went and returned to Yithro, his father-in-law, and said to him, please let me go and return to my brothers, who are in Mitzrayim, to see whether they are still alive. And Yithro said to Moshe, go in peace. And Yahweh said to Moshe in Midian, go, return to Mitzrayim, for all the men are dead who sought your life. So Moshe took his wife and his sons and set them on a donkey, and he returned to the land of Mitzrayim. And Moshe took the rod of Elohim in his hand. And Yahweh said to Moshe, as you go back to Mitzrayim, see that you do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in your hand. But I am going to strengthen his heart, so that he does not let the people go. And you shall say to Pharaoh, thus said Yahweh, Israel is my son, my firstborn. So I say to you, let my son go to serve me. But if you refuse to let him go, see, I am killing your son, your firstborn. And it came to be on the way, in the lodging place, that Yahweh met him and sought to kill him. And Sephora took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and threw it at his feet, and said, you are indeed a bridegroom of blood to me. So he let him go. Then she said, you are a bridegroom of blood because of the circumcision. And Yahweh said to Aaron, go to meet Moshe in the wilderness. And he went to meet him on the mountain of Elohim and kissed him. And Moshe then told Aaron all the words of Yahweh who had sent him, and all the signs which he had commanded him. And Moshe went with Aaron and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. And Aaron spoke all the words which Yahweh had spoken to Moshe. Then he did the signs before the eyes of the people. And the people believed, and they heard that Yahweh had visited the children of Israel, and that he had looked on their affliction, and they bowed their heads, and did obeisance. Any comments?
Hello? Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is just something I was noticing while we were reading. But, in verse 16, it has the word Elohim in there, but it has a small e. And then in my notes, it says mighty one, which I was thinking that it would have, they would be calling Aaron a mighty one. Or mighty man. So I was wondering, I thought Elohim was meant plural. So here we have, it's a mighty one. You know, and you can't make a plural out of that, right there. And the thing, the crazy,
E on the end makes it plural.
well, right, and so when I'm just pointing this out, because I had a Bible that was a New King James Version Bible, but it had the Hebrew and Greek, meanings for things. And in the back, it had Elohim, and it said singular or plural. And then, 10 years later, it's plural only. And so I'm just, there's another thing where it's kind of changing, like the Strong's, even the Strong's, it was a Strong's in the back of my Bible that said it was a singular or plural, and then 10 years later it's plural only. So I was just wondering, how they can think that they can just.
That's the masculine form. I do know that, so that may be partly why it's Elohim as opposed to an Eloah as a singular. So we don't really have that in English as far as masculine and feminine, but it's definitely in the Hebrew and other Eastern languages.
Spanish too.
So masculine can mean one, or
it's just the masculine form.
I have heard.
I'm just a poor Westerner trying to wrap my head around it too.
It's often the ending of the word is different to denote gender.
Yes, and
Yeah.
Elohei should be, Elohei is one. Elohei, I mean, is singular. Is that what you're saying? The ending?
Yeah, the Eloah is the singular use. Or like Elohim, the I am is pluralized.
So why do they have plural here and a little e? And it seems like they're contradicting their own teachings here.
But no, that's what I'm saying is that I know that word Elohim, that form is the masculine form. Where I think the Eloah is the feminine form.
Like we know Hebrew.
Yeah. Should I put that? Oh no.
Hello? It's like we know Hebrew, right?
Try.
And then we rely on the translators, and the translators say, well, these people aren't going to understand the Hebrew. So let's just anglicize it. Let's just make it more understandable to Western readers, which we are. So we're trusting the translators to tell us what's going on in the other language, which even they don't really understand. But the other thought about this verse where it's the Elohim, or in our case, the Heavenly Father, who tells us what to say, as like in a word of prophecy. Okay, so that's clear, I hope. But then Moshe is going to be the Elohim, or the one who gives the words to Aharon, and then Aharon will speak as the prophet. So there's Yahovah and Moshe, and then Moshe and Aharon. So the words finally come out of Aharon's mouth. Does that make sense? Anyway, it's like a figure of speech, sort of, too. Where one thing represents another. Thank you.
Rachel?
I like you pulling that out, Carla. So I was looking, one, to check the actual plural or not, the em on that, because at least the scriptures version, very often, like if you compare it to the Sefer will actually use the correct form, whether it's singular or plural or not conjunction, all of that sort of thing. They'll actually label it as such. Where the scriptures translation, everything is Elohim, everything is I am, whether in the Hebrew it's Eloah or it's Elohai or that sort of thing. So I was actually looking to see. So in this one, it is Elohim. It actually has the I am, the plural in that. But I think that it might be the translation of the scriptures seems weird. Because if you go and look at some different translations of it, which I don't have a lot quick access, that, here, in this program, I only have the Sefer and KJV really to compare to, and they're pretty much the same. But that it reads, and he shall be thy spokesman unto the people, and he shall be to thee instead of a mouth, and thou shalt be to him instead of Elohim, and that would be, and the Sefer capitalizes Elohim. So instead of the scriptures version that seems like that you'll be a mighty one to him, the KJV, and then the Sefer is really pretty much is the KJV with names, says like he'll be your mouth, and you will I don't know how to say it. Instead of Elohim speaking to him, you are Yahuwah speaking. So it's not calling him a king or a mighty one. It's saying your mouth is his mouth. Like it's Yahuwah's, like you are Yahuwah to him because he's using you, as opposed to you are a mighty one.
Moses is representing
Representative
Yahuwah to Aaron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the representative, kind of how we see as what's the word that we use? Agency, scripturally, where someone is acting as an agent on behalf, and we see that lots of times throughout. But I think that's a better translation. What the Sefer has going off of the KJV, how it has the capital E. I think it is actually referring to Yahuwah, Elohim, and not just calling a singular man, Aaron, a plural form of mighty one, or such there, my opinion, for whatever it's worth.
Anyone else?
Rachel, I looked in Jasper here, and yes, it was 2 years.
Okay, from the first and second Vincent,
Yeah,
right?
in chapter 80, it said at the end of 2 years, Yahweh again sent Moshe and Pharaoh to bring the children of Israel and send them out of the land of Egypt.
So there's at least 2 years, Mary.
All right, an answer.
Before
But a year.
before the plagues
Before
start.
plagues. Whether the plagues are quick or lengthy after that.
Any other comments? You want to apply?
Oh, wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
Ray has something.
So in modern terminology, it's like an ambassador.
Okay, that makes sense.
Emissary,
Emissary.
ambassador.
they have the authority to speak in the name of the president, the king, whatever.
Right, and their word carries as the king or whatever. Whatever they say is backed by the king.
That makes sense.
Whatever you loose on earth is loosed in heaven.
Right,
Whatever you bind on earth is bound in heaven.
that's right.
Like Joseph for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, chapter 5? Anyone else?
And afterwards Moshe and Aaron went in and said to Pharaoh, Thus saith Yahweh, Almighty Sovereign of Israel, let my people go, so that they celebrate a festival to me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, Who is Yahweh, that I shall obey his voice and let Israel go? I do not know Yahweh, nor am I going to let Israel go. And they said, The Almighty Sovereign of the Hebrews has met with us. Please let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and slaughter to Yahweh, our Almighty Sovereign, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. But the sovereign Mitzrayim said to them, Moshe and Aaron, why do you take the people from their work? Get back to your burdens. And Pharaoh said, See, the people of the land are many now, and you make them cease from their burden. And the same day Pharaoh commanded the slave drivers of the people and their foremen, saying, You are no longer to give the people straw to make bricks as before. Let them go and gather straw for themselves, and lay on them the required amount of bricks which they made before. Do not diminish it, for they are idle. That is why they cry out, saying, Let us go and slaughter to our Almighty Sovereign. Let more work be laid on the men so that they labor in it and not pay attention to the words of falsehood. And the slave drivers and the people and the foreman went out and spoke to the people, saying, Thus saith Pharaoh, I do not give you straw. Go take straw for yourself, whether you find it for your work shall not be diminished. And the people were scattered in all the land of Israel to gather stubble and straw. And the slave drivers were hurrying them on, saying, Complete your work, your daily amount, as when there was straw. And the foreman and the children of Israel, whom Pharaoh's slave drivers had appointed over them, were beaten and were asked, Why have you not completed your task of making bricks both yesterday and today, as before? And the foreman of the children of Israel came and cried out to Pharaoh, saying, Why do you treat your servants this way? There is no straw given for your servants, and they say to us, Make bricks. And see, your servants are beaten, but your own people are at fault. But he said, You are idle, you are idle. That is why you say, Let us go and slaughter to Yahweh. So now go, work, and straw is not given you, but deliver the amount of bricks. And the foreman of the children of Israel saw that they were in trouble after it was said, You are not to diminish your daily amount of bricks. And when they came out from Pharaoh, they met Moshe and Aaron and stood there to meet them. And they said to them, Let Yahweh look on you and judge you, because you have made us loathsome in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of the servants, to give a sword in your hand to kill us. And Moshe returned to Yahweh and said, Yahweh, why have you done evil to this people? Why did you send me? For ever since I came before Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done evil to your people, and you have not delivered your people at all. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Now see what I do to Pharaoh, for with a strong hand he is going to let them go, and with a strong hand he is going to drive them out of the land.
It's gonna be okay.
Anyone? Any comments? Go ahead. Rick.
I find it interesting that the father doesn't make a move until Moshe goes to him once again and says, Why have you done this? You know, so I think the people have been complaining and to Moshe and everything, but it's not until Moshe goes to the Father and says, why have you done this? It wasn't until the leadership rose up and questioned the Father that he actually put his plan into action to bring the people out of Israel, or out of Mitzrayim.
Exactly correct. And if I go before him again and said, why have you not done it? He said, now I will do it. Now you will see. So,
Now you will see.
And the start of 5 was the first time that he went before Pharaoh, right?
Yes, this chapter is the first time they go before Pharaoh. And then he puts this burden on them that they have to gather their own straw, but they cannot diminish. And they say that if you go to Egypt, you can see the bricks where the straw was diminished in the bricks.
Could you imagine how the people were upset with him for 2 years?
Well, yeah, and the people, it's not like it happened so fast that this burden's come upon us. This is over 2-year period when this happens, so they are really heated up over this. Yeah. You promised to take us out. And then,
anyone else?
Oh, I'm done. Are you ready to go on?
Okay, we're going on to Isaiah.
Okay, Isaiah 27:6. Those who come, he causes to take root in Yaakov. Israel shall blossom and bud, and they shall fill the face of the world with fruit. Has he smitten him as he struck the ones who were striking him? Or as a killer was he killed as he was killing? In measure, by sending her away, you contend with her. He shall take away by rough wind in the day of the east wind. Therefore by the crookedness of Yaakov was covered, and this is all the fruit of taking away his sin, when he makes all the stones of the slaughter place like chalk stones that are beaten to dust. Asherim and sun pillars rise no more, for the city of defense is lonely, a home forsaken and left a wilderness. There the calf feeds, and there it lies down, and shall consume its branches. When its twigs are dry, they are broken off. Women come and set them on fire. For it's a people of no understanding. Therefore, he who made them has no compassion on them, and he who formed them shows them no favor. And in that day it shall be that Yahweh threshes from the channel of the river to the Wadi of Mitzrayim, and you shall be gathered one by one, O children of Israel. And in that day it shall be that a great shofar is blown, and those who were perishing in the land of Asher and the outcasts in the land of Mitzrayim shall come, and shall worship Yahweh on the set apart mountain on Jerusalem. Chapter 28. Woe to the proud crown of the drunkards of Ephraim, and to the fading flower of its splendid comeliness that is on the head of the fertile valley, to those who overcome with wine. See, Yahweh has one who is strong and potent, like a downpour of hail and a destroying storm, like a flood of mighty waters overflowing, who casts down to the earth with the hand. The proud crown of the drunkards of Ephraim is trampled underfoot, and the fading flower of its splendid comeliness that is on the head of the fertile valley, like the first fruit before the summer, which when one sees it, he eats it up while it is still in his hand. In that day, Yahweh of hosts is for a crown of splendor and a headdress of comeliness to the remnant of his people, and a spirit of right ruling to him who sits in right ruling, and strength to those who turn back the battle at the gate. And these two have gone astray through wine, and through strong drink wandered about. Priest and prophet have gone astray through strong drink. They are swallowed up by wine. They wander about through strong drink. They go astray in vision. They stumble in right ruling. For all tables shall be covered with vomit, and no place without filth. Whom would he teach knowledge, and whom would he make to understand the message? Those weaned from the milk, those taken from the breast. For it is command upon command, command upon command, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. For with a jabbering lip and a foreign tongue he speaks to his people, to whom he said, this is the rest, give rest to the weary, and this is the refreshing, but they would not hear. But the word of Yahweh was to them command upon command, command upon command, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little, so that they go and shall stumble backward and be broken and snared and taken captive. And then the last two verses of 29 are the last three. 22. Therefore, thus said Yahweh, who ransomed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob. Jacob is no longer put to shame, no longer does his face grow pale, for when he sees his children, the work of my hands in his midst, they shall set apart my name, and shall set apart the set apart one of Jacob, and fear Yahweh of Israel. And those who went astray in spirit shall come to understanding, and the grumblers accept instruction. And I read the last one. Because you reminded me last year.
I like to.
Last year, Rachel reminded me to read the last one. I like that last verse.
Any comments on that? Go ahead.
Okay, so so I think it's interesting that it's talking in verse 9 and 10. Whom would he teach knowledge, and when would he make to understand the message? Those weaned from the milk, those taken from the breast. For it is command upon command. That's how we learn. Whom would he teach knowledge? So it's command upon command, line upon line, here a little, there a little. And also with that, I have to say, I even bringing up what I just brought up. In 2 Timothy, there is some things about just going on words. It causes fightings and arguings. And I just wanted to read that. It's in 2 Timothy, 2nd chapter 14. It says, remind them of this, earnestly witnessing for the master not to wage verbal battles on words, which is useless to the overthrowing of the hearers. Do your utmost to present yourself approved to Yahweh, a worker who does not need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth, but keep away from profane, empty babblings, for they will go on to more wickedness. So, it's not about one word here or one word there. It's like command upon command, line upon line. And when I was reading this morning, I was thinking, you either want that command, you want that line, you want here a little, you want it there a little, because on the next verse, they didn't want it. They hated it. And that's how they stumbled backward, because they're like, oh, another command, another, here we gotta do this. And then, but I love it, and we know people like that in our lives, right? But on I like the last verse that I read today, and it says, and those, because those people that were like that, they went into captivity. So this last verse on 29 is kind of hopeful. It says, and those who went astray in spirit shall come to understanding, and the grumblers accept instruction. Hallelujah! And please forgive me for bringing up the word today.
Hallelujah. Anyone else?
Figure it out eventually. It took me 25 years to get that.
Hallelujah.
Woo! It's like, what does he mean?
All right. Going to Acts. Chapter 7, 17:35. But as the time of the promise drew near, which Elohim had sworn to Abraham, the people increased and multiplied in Mitzrayim, until another sovereign arose who did not know Joseph. Having dealt treacherously with our race, this one mistreated our fathers, making them expose their babies so that they should not live. At that time, Moshe was born, and he was well pleasing to Elohim. And he was reared 3 months in the house of his father. But when he was exposed, the daughter of Pharaoh took him up and reared him as her own son. And Moshe was instructed in all the wisdom of the Mitzrites, and was mighty in words and works. And when he was 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brothers, the children of Israel. And seeing one of them being wronged, he defended and revenged him who was oppressed, smiting the Mitzrite. And he thought that his brothers would have understood that Elohim would have given deliverance to them by his hand, but they did not understand. And the next day he appeared to 2 of them as they were fighting, and urged them to peace, saying, Men, you are brothers, why do you wrong one another? But he who was wronging his neighbor pushed him away, saying, Who made you a ruler and a judge over us? Do you wish to kill me as you killed the Mitzrite yesterday? And at this saying, Moshe fled and became a sojourner in the land of Midian, where he fathered 2 sons. And after 40 years were completed, a messenger of Yahweh appeared to him in a flame of fire in a bush in the wilderness of Mount Sinai. And Moshe, seeing it, marveled at the sight. On coming near to look, the voice of Yahweh came to him, saying, I am the Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, and the Elohim of Ishak, and the Elohim of Yaakov. And Moshe trembled and did not have the courage to look. But Yahweh said to him, Take your sandals off your feet, for the place where you stand is set apart ground. I have certainly seen the evil treatment of my people who are in Mitzrayim, and I have heard their groaning, and have come down to deliver them. And now come, let me send you to Mitzrayim. This Moshe whom they have refused, saying, Who made you a ruler and a judge? This one Elohim sent to be a ruler and a deliverer by the hand of the messenger who appeared to him in the bush. Any comments on this passages, verses? So we take this like 80, Moshe was 80 years old now when he comes back to Mitzrayim to face Pharaoh, who could neither speak that well, so he had his brother Aaron be the speak master for him. But all those words came down from Elohim, the Father. Anyone else? All right. 1 Corinthians 14, 18 through 25. I thank my Elohim, I speak with tongues more than you all. But in an assembly I wish to speak 5 words with my understanding, that I might instruct others also. Then 10,000 words in a tongue. Brothers, do not be children in your thinking, but in evil be babes, and in your thinking be perfect. In the Torah it has been written, with men of other tongues and other lips I shall speak to this people, and even so they shall not hear me, says Yahweh. So then tongues are for a sign, not to those who believe, but to unbelievers. And prophesying is not for unbelievers, but for those who believe. If then all the assembly comes together in one place, and all speak with tongues, and there come in those who are unlearned or unbelievers, shall they not say that you are mad? But if all prophesy, and an unbeliever, an unlearned one comes in, he is reproved by all, he is discerned by all. And so the secrets of his heart are revealed. And so falling down on his face, he shall worship Elohim, declaring that Elohim is truly among you. Hallelujah. Any comments? Okay, I'll do a closing prayer. Father Yahweh, we are so thankful for your love, provisions, and protection. Father, as we come together for fellowship today, partaking of this food, let it be a blessing to us, both physically and spiritually. There are so many reasons to be thankful and grateful for you that we can't even count all of them. You carry our lives in your hands. You lift us up out of despair and give us the joyful light of the world. Yahusha HaMashiach. Your ways are higher, so we focus our eyes on your kingdom. Father, we praise you in our trials and tests. We sing through pain and sorrow. We cling to your Torah of kindness and are renewed. We seek your face and find the beauty of all creation. Father, since shine your face and favor upon us. Guide and direct our walk and give us your wisdom and discernment. Let forgiveness be first in our hearts and help us remove all grudges so that our heart remembers nothing done against us. Let our mouth not ever speak any evil or wickedness against another and cancel any wickedness spoken against us. Let love be our banner. In Yahushua HaMashiach's name we pray. Let it be so, and let your kingdom come. Hallelujah. Thank you, Father.